Hello, and welcome to the end of the night. My name is Maria, and I'm a 31-year-old dialysis patient. Every week, I will sit down and talk about my journey having a chronic illness. Join me as I tell you my experience through these 8 years of being on dialysis. Also, I'm always curious to hear other experiences with their chronic illness to share the similarities or differences we have. I would love to hear your journey, so feel free to leave me a comment. Now for the topic for today. There are a variety of illnesses including social anxiety disorder, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, personality disorder, panic disorder, and ADHD, to name a few. Guess what I will be talking about? You guessed it right. Mental illness. Disclaimer: I am not a healthcare professional. I will be talking about my personal experience. If you or anyone you know needs physical or mental help, please seek medical attention immediately. Now, let's get back to the topic, mental illness. I didn't know much about mental illness, and I didn't know so many existed. I just knew that once I started dialysis, I was very depressed. When I thought everything was going back to normal, or as normal as it can get, another thing came crashing down on me. My sister's cancer. Cancer for me is the worst thing one can go through. After battling for 3 years, hard and strong, a warrior I would say, unfortunately my sister lost a battle to cancer on August 9, 2019. It was one of those days that I will never forget, and that my mind would be replaying over and over again for a whole year, blaming myself for what happened and always asking that question: if I would have done something different, would she still be with us? After the funeral was over, that's where it hit me. That's where I knew she was not coming back, and I developed anxiety attacks. My sister was not only my sister, she was my best friend, my therapist, my comfort. So it hit me really hard that she passed away, to the point that I wanted to die as well. I lost weight. Either I slept a lot or didn't sleep at all. I stopped talking to almost everyone, but my family never gave up on me, especially my mom. When I tell you that I have the best mom ever, I'm not exaggerating. She was not just mourning her daughter, she was taking care of me as well. So much pressure, but not once did she give up on me. Feeling the way I was feeling, I began to feel myself again. Thinking if the roles were reversed and I had passed away, I wouldn't want my sister to live a miserable life. On occasions though, I would wish that I was dead. That all changed from an incident I had. For 7 years, I had a fistula that was working perfectly. One day, I noticed a ball, which that is the only way I can describe it. It was growing in my arm. I didn't pay much attention since I thought it was due to dialysis. Time went by, and it looked like it was getting bigger, and it started to become painful. My mom didn't like what she was looking at and took me to the emergency room. They did an ultrasound, and the ball, which was what I named it, turned out to be an aneurysm. Not knowing the seriousness of it, later I found out what it was. I got admitted that day, and once they took me to the room, and as I got in bed, I started bleeding. Fortunately, they were able to stop the bleeding by wrapping some special tape on me. That day, I went about my day, waiting for my dialysis session. I had my mom and little sister with me. Before my dialysis session started, my mom had to leave. I was left with my sister, which I wanted her to go home and rest since she too was in pain, back pain to be exact. Finally, after 3 hours, my dialysis session was over. As we waited to hear my diagnosis, a doctor came to check my heart and my lungs. After he left, not even a minute later, I felt something coming down my arm. I checked, and there was blood. I grabbed it as I was taught in my dialysis unit. I told my sister to get help immediately, and to my surprise, she ran to get help, which later was laughed about. I tried stopping the blood, but it just came gushing out. The nurse finally came and addressed the situation and quickly tried to stop the bleeding, but it was no use. Blood was just gushing out excessively. Next thing I knew, chaos erupted. There were so many nurses and staffs inside the room in a matter of seconds. Everyone was screaming while trying to stop the bleeding. I was calm during the whole situation because I knew not only that I couldn't do anything, but if I panicked, it would be worse. I remember one nurse saying her blood pressure is dropping. That's where I started to get frightened. I have been seeing so many medical series, and I would see when their blood pressure would drop, usually they would pass away. So I lay there, hearing the commotion and thinking, this is it, I'm going to die. But now I don't want to die. They rushed me to an emergency operation, and as I was squealed away, I saw my sister sitting on a chair crying. They were still trying to stop the bleeding while they were rushing me to the operation room. They even had to remove some people from the elevator as they were taking me. Once I got to the operation room, I had to give verbal consent to receive anesthesia since it was an emergency. I nodded. The last thing I remember was the anesthesiologist telling me everything is going to be alright as he held my hand. I fell asleep right after. I remember the dreams that I had so vividly. Two figures were pulling me from side to side as if they were fighting for me. I was just letting them. Once I came to my senses, I went towards the figure that looked more human. After I went with the figure, my body turned bright. That's when I woke up. I was alive. I was able to see my family after I came back. They were so worried about me, and I was so glad to see them. I couldn't really talk because my throat was hurting, but I'm sure I smiled at them, giving them reassurance that I was alright. Once they saw I was better, they took me to my room where they were going to observe me to make sure I was doing alright. Once my family said goodbye to me, I had my first major panic attack. I started seeing blood on my sheets, and I tried to calm down as much as I could until I gave in and fell asleep. But my dreams were no better. I dreamt of a bloody person and I woke up really scared. For some reason, I knew that was just the beginning. I let my nurse know, and she said it was because I went through something traumatic. My surgeon came to check up on me. I was so grateful that he saved my life. Unfortunately, I couldn't tell him that, but later I thanked him. I don't think I can mention his name, but I'm forever grateful not only to him, but all the nurses, staff, and the dialysis team for saving my life. My surgeon once again came to see me. I was feeling so much better considering my panic attacks and realizing I had blurry vision. He told me, if you were at home, this would have been a different story. I was even more grateful that my mom took me to the emergency room and that my sister was with me. That incident showed me that I didn't want to die. I wanted to be with my loved ones. Only one thing changed that I'm still working on. I have not been able to cry since that day. I also have anxiety, and I'm taking anxiety medication. That day didn't just affect me, but my whole family, especially my sister. She also developed anxiety since that day, so she takes good care of me. She worries a lot, sometimes too much, but I'm grateful for her. I'm grateful for the family that I have because now we can laugh about what happened. Occasionally, I do still feel something coming down my arm, but I think that's normal. I have to come to terms with the fact that this incident will always be with me, sometimes replaying in my mind. I know I need professional help, but that also scares me. I know it's weird. How can you be scared of receiving help? I guess I'm scared to relive my whole life, from being in and out of the hospital since I was 8, to my sister's passing, and even dialysis. All I know is that incident changed my view of life. Things that would bother me or stress me out don't anymore. I know family is all that matters. They have been there for me in my ups and downs, and I don't think I can ever repay them. I know one day things will be easier because everything has a solution except death. So I started to enjoy life and thank God for a new day as I wake up. So I know that mental health affects people differently and is handled the best they could. Some unfortunately losing the battle to depression and taking their lives, feeling like there's no hope in life. Just know you're not alone, and there are more people just like you battling their mental illness. Whether you have chronic illness or not, mental illness is very common these days. I advise you to seek help. There's nothing wrong in asking for it. I know what you're probably thinking. I should follow my own advice. I know. Soon, I'll be able to do just that. Ask for help. I know I mentioned I had so much support from my family, so I wouldn't want anyone to feel like they are alone in this. Remember, there's always someone out there ready to help. I am a really great listener, so if you feel like you don't have support, send me a message. I don't want you to feel alone. I don't promise I will give you advice, but I will be someone that will be there for you. A simple text like good morning, hopefully, will brighten up your day. Well, that is all for today. Thank you so much for listening. Remember, life is beautiful. You take care of yourself, and I'll see you next time. Have a good night.